The image of the temperamental movie producer barking orders and abusing those working under them is common, but how many live up to that stereotype? Well, one producer revealed to absolutely do those things is Scott Rudin. He's had a lengthy career in Hollywood, producing multiple hits and Oscar winners, but that seemed to come crashing down after an expose in the Hollywood Reporter revealed the extent to which he treated his assistants and others. He initially began his careers in the film and theater industries as a casting director, eventually transitioning to producing, with his first film producer credit appearing on a made-for-television sequel to The Stepford Wives. After producing a few independent films, including the Oscar-winning documentary He Makes Me Feel Like Dancing, he was hired as president of production at 20th Century Fox, although he did not last there long. A movie he was very passionate about making was The Addams Family. He originally tried to set up the film at Fox, but there was difficulty acquiring the rights. After leaving Fox, he was able to get Orion Pictures to greenlight the film, and when they ran into financial difficulties, Rudin helped negotiate a deal with Paramount to acquire the domestic rights. The Addams Family became a big hit, which led to a sequel being produced. Around this time, Rudin would also produce the Harrison Ford starring drama Regarding Henry, Jodie Foster's directing debut Little Man Tate, the John Grisham adaptation The Firm, and the acclaimed chess movie Searching for Bobby Fischer. He also had executive producer credits on science fiction thriller Flatliners and the comedy Sister Act. As you can see, Rudin had a hand in producing a variety of movies, although he seemed to prefer comedies and character-driven films over the big blockbusters commonly associated with Hollywood after the 80s. For many years, he had a particularly lucrative first-look deal with Paramount, where he produced successful crowd-pleasing films like Clueless, The First Wives Club, In and Out, and The Truman Show. He also received an executive producer credit on the South Park movie, the first of a few collaborations with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, which also included Team America World Police and their Broadway musical The Book of Mormon. Not everything hit, though. A new version of Sabrina was considered a disappointment, as was the legal drama Civil Action, and Martin Scorsese's Bring Out the Dead did not generate much interest from moviegoers. Among his bigger budget films in the 90s was Tim Burton's adaptation of Sleepy Hollow, which performed nicely at the box office. Rudin did not solely work with Paramount during those years, though. He was a producer on The Royal Tenenbaums, the first of what would become a long producing partnership with Wes Anderson and M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. He also worked on a few movies produced by Miramax, including Marvin's Room, Iris, and The Hours, the latter earning him his first Oscar nomination for Best Picture. Considering Harvey Weinstein's own demanding and fiery reputation, it's probably a little surprised they reportedly did not get along that well. Now, those are two people I would not want to see together in the same room. Back at Paramount, he would produce a hit like School of Rock, as well as disappointments like The Stepford Wives, which had a notoriously difficult production with the studio demanding reshoots and other problems. After his time at Paramount ended, Rudin was signed a first-look deal with Disney, with a now post-Weinstein Miramax handling some of his productions. One of them was an adaptation of Cormac McCarthy's No Country for Old Men, which Rudin bought the rights to and offered the Coen brothers to direct. That movie became a critically acclaimed hit and won the Oscar for Best Picture. Incidentally, that same year, Rudin was an executive producer on There Will Be Blood, which was No Country's closest competition for the Oscar, and was even filmed nearby. Meanwhile, he would produce Doubt, John Patrick Shanley's adaptation of his own play, and become Noah Baumbach's frequent producer. He had a particularly big year in 2010, producing The Social Network and True Grit, big hits that earned 2 Best Picture nominations in the same year. Throughout the 2010s, he would continue to produce his share of critical darlings and Oscar nominees, receiving further Best Picture nominations for Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, Captain Phillips, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Fences, and Greta Gerwig's directorial debut Lady Bird. He would also receive a Best Animated Feature nomination as one of the producers of Wes Anderson's stop-motion animated Isle of Dogs. He seemed to particularly champion indie filmmakers during that decade. In addition to Lady Bird, he also produced Bo Burnham's 8th Grade and the Safdie brothers' Uncut Gems. He was not tied to one particular distributor, working with the likes of Sony, A24, and Netflix to release movies he produced. His penchant for drama remained high, though. He had an explosive reaction to David Denby, the critic for The New Yorker, publishing a review of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo before the embargo date. He vowed that Denby would no longer be allowed to attend any film he produced, although it seems unlikely he stuck to that promise. Meanwhile, during post-production of Annihilation, Rudin clashed with Skydance head David Ellison on the film. Ellison wanted to cut the film, finding it too complicated, while Rudin refused and stuck by director Alex Garland's vision. Paramount chose to deal with this by selling the movie's international rights to Netflix, while retaining North America and China. A Scott Rudin production that ran into problems, mostly corporate-related, was The Woman in the Window. 20th Century Fox originally slated the film for release in 2019, but after the studio was acquired by Disney, it was delayed, with reshoots and re-edits planned to potentially fix the film after underwhelming test screenings. The May 2020 date was then affected by the pandemic, and then Disney finally made an agreement to sell the film to Netflix. It was released a month after a Hollywood Reporter expose was published that revealed that he would physically abuse assistants and other employees, including throwing them out of cars, hitting them with various objects, and engaging in yelling and shouting. The Woman in the Window is currently the last film he's credited as a producer on. And even though he was involved with several films in production or post-production, following the article's publication, it was announced he would step away from them and his credits were removed. These included Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch, Joe Coen's The Tragedy of Macbeth, and the Jennifer Lawrence vehicle Causeway. He was even a producer on the eventual Best Picture winner Everything Everywhere All at Once, but no more. His name was also removed from subsequent seasons of What We Do in the Shadows. Even his theater productions were affected. Rudin dropped out of producing the Music Man revival on Broadway, with star Sutton Foster saying she would have left the production if he stayed. He did the same on Aaron Sorkin's adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird. Even though it was this article that led to his fall from grace, Scott Rudin's behavior was an open secret in Hollywood for years. The temperamental movie executive, played by Kevin Spacey in the independent film Swimming with Sharks, was said to have been inspired by Rudin. And Tom Cruise was made to look like Scott Rudin for his role as the foul-mouthed executive Les Grossman in Tropic Thunder. If you watch the credits for several movies produced by Rudin, while the directors and actors might have 1 or 2 assistants, he would have something like 7 next to his name, which starts to make sense after the revelation that he would circle through several assistants in a matter of months. That he was allowed to keep doing this for so long is an example of how in Hollywood, as long as you're successful, and Rudin was very successful, someone is seemingly allowed to do any horrible thing they want to those under them. It should not have taken until an article was published for something to be done about it. I do think it's good that the sort of behavior Rudin was sent to inflict is a lot less tolerated now, but what about other producers who might be doing the same things and a major publication has not gone to them yet? Scott Rudin may have had several hit movies to his name, but that was not an excuse for any of his actions and the fear instilled in those working for him. See you next time.